Okay, welcome everybody. I am simultaneously streaming this live on Facebook, our YouTube channel, my X account, and our Breakthrough X account. And the reason I'm coming to you on all these platforms is because we have a really important topic that has not been covered sufficiently by, I would say, the mainstream media. It's a topic that I covered on my radio show, and it's really important, and it's actually very concerning. And of course, you see on the other side of this video, you see Desi Anderson. Desi Anderson ran for both state Senate and the state House in 2022 and in 2024. And in the midst of doing all this, she ran across a program, a nefarious program, I would say, that is essentially run by a bunch of Obama elitists through Civic Nation. And it is called the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge. And a number of our universities signed up for this All-In Democracy Challenge. And now the mission of Civic Nation is to encourage college and university students to participate in elections through a national voting competition. And in order to do that, they set up this All-In Democracy Challenge. It's a competition that they also then do in conjunction with the National Study of Learning, Voting, and Engagement at Tufts University. That university grades essentially the competition. But once you become part of this competition, you turn over student data. And that student data is private information. And so that, unfortunately, what Desi is alleging, and we're going to get to her in just a minute to tell her side of the story, because I really, really want you to start at the beginning about how you discovered that. That's something we did not get into in the radio program so much. I really want you to get into that. But she discovered that they were then allowing that information to go through the National Student Clearinghouse. And from there, it got picked up by third-party voter processing companies. So if you're familiar with campaigns at all, they maybe use L2 data or something called Catalyst data. Catalyst is far more on the left, but they took this student data information and then aligned it with the voter database and then started to contact these voters, or these unregistered voters possibly, to get them to vote in these elections. And this apparently encompasses over 44 universities and colleges in the state of Illinois, and it's happening in many other states. And so they have filed a federal complaint against this. And I'm so excited to have you on, Desi. Thank you for joining me. Tell the audience right now a little bit more about, well, you know what, let's start at the beginning. Tell us how you even discovered this was going on. I think this is alarming in and of itself, and it deserves its own investigation, by the way.
Correct. What we noticed initially in 2022 when I ran for state Senate, I was running against Senator Dave Kaler, longtime incumbent out of the Peoria area. Goodness, he's been in Peoria politics for 40 plus years. I'm 38 years old, so clearly he's been in politics longer than I've been alive. And so that says something. But one specific thing we were specifically looking at was the student voters. We have several universities that call McLean County home, and Peoria County at the time, which would be Bradley University. So 4 major universities in the state Senate District 46. Initially, a lot of folks from Springfield said, oh, we're not worried about student data. We're not worried about it. Apparently, we should have been worried about it. And so when you say,
wait a minute, when you say Springfield, you mean Republicans were not concerned about this. They basically played off your concerns.
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
Which election night told a whole different story of what was happening on campuses looking at the precinct data. So when I decided to run again and I got recruited, one of the things I asked was about our student population once again in the district. This is a coupling issue with the redistricting. The first time in 2020, when we took the census, we included student housing for the redistricting. For every state rep district, you have about 108,000 per population. So it's even across the board. So every district is similar in size for fair representation. The difference is in 2020, we counted the college student housing for the first time in our redistricting. So now the 91st out of that 108,000, we have about 42,000 of the residents are college students. The issue in Champaign County is actually 10 times worse because U of I has roughly just over 50,000 students that are claiming U of I home. They take the student population part of the redistricting, and this is what I've been sounding the alarm, and Springfield as well, haven't gotten any feedback. But that's been the issue, is now looking at my state rep district, the number one challenge for a campaign is voter contact. I'm looking at a group of 42,000 students, which I'm calling an artificial group. They're not in my county clerk roles. How do I make voter contact with them? I can't send a mailer. I can't send out a text messages. I don't know, for example, if John Smith from Naperville enrolled at Illinois State University. That data is protected. The Dems got really good, really smart. They said, let's funnel this through NGOs. And through their civic engagement center. So we were looking at our student precincts, our student housing precincts, and sure enough, there was a local professor at Heartland Community College, did an anti-Desi ad. Everybody knows who she is. She's very involved with the Democrat Party here, and she's also part of the Communist Democrat Social Chapter of Bloomington Normal. And Sharon Chung and the Democrat Party of Illinois paid for that ad, and so during early voting, her students and her peers at Heartland Community College were watching her attack a Republican candidate. During that time, Heartland Community College then uses that same professor on their messaging on their official sites to tell students and her colleagues to get out and vote. And they hashtagged all in. I'm young enough to figure out, hey, these hashtags have meanings. I look it up. Sure enough, in October during early voting, she did an interview with a local newspaper talking about how she is the coordinator for All In for Democracy Challenge for Heartland Community College. Gets even better for their action plan, because each university needs to create an action plan, which All In Democracy comes in.
Just one moment here.
Yeah.
All In Democracy Challenge is something that a university or college decides to join. They don't have to join. There's no mandate to join. It's something that they want to do to further civic engagement. And so they join All In Democracy Challenge, which this is really, really important for people to know. All In Democracy Challenge is an affiliate of, a subset of Civic Nation. Civic Nation's a nonprofit whose board of directors consists of entirely former high-ranking Obama staffers, and Valerie Jarrett serves as its board chairman. So this is coming straight from the Obama campaign side to this now 501c3 nonprofit they've created, Civic Nation, which says we're going to do engagement. We want to grade universities on how well they do voter contact, voter outreach, voter participation. And so we're going to give you resources to help you if you join our All In Democracy Challenge.
Correct. So yes, that's absolutely correct. And then what they do is they create an action plan, and they list off the professors or the field of studies that are going to participate, where they do PowerPoint presentations. And Illinois State University, for example, says they're targeting groups of individuals they feel like that have been historically disenfranchised from the voting block. So that is your DEI programs that are associated with the universities. Take it back another layer. At Heartland Community College, Senator Dave Kaler and Representative Sharon Chung are listed on this NGO now, in collaboration with Heartland Community College. Correct. This is a nonpartisan NGO. So you have their civic coordinator who is training staff and others in regards to voter contact, election strategies, is doing a hit piece on a Republican candidate in one of the top competitive races in Illinois politics, listed as part of the community outreach program for All In Democracy Challenge, is my opponent.
Okay, so now let's go forward. So they've got this program set up. Now the next step that they have to do, though, is in order to be part of the challenge, there's a nationwide competition. And so then the university and college is then directed, because they want to be part of the competition. So they're directed to send all their student data to this other, to Tufts University, who assesses voter participation and grades them on how well they did. Is that correct?
That is correct. Believe it or not, the idea of All in Democracy Challenge was actually birthed out of Obama's West Wing right before he left office in 2016. This initially was supposed to be
go ahead.
This was supposed to be the sister organization of Civic Nation, which Barack Obama used when he ran for president. And they were using the same apparatus in regards to leadership, resources, private donors coming in to invest. And All in Democracy Challenge, the goal was to actually go into competitive swing districts at the federal level, at the congressional level, to help Hillary Clinton. That was the initial rollout, where you saw the universities participating. It wasn't in your red states. They initially started giving resources to the swing states. And then, of course, Illinois was one of the top, right? Because Barack Obama calls Chicago home. So they really started to figure out how to do this. The machine just grew overnight, where now we realize now in 2024, they've been doing this since 2016. So we clearly are way behind the game and had no idea. But what happens is not a single person solicits for the universities to participate unless private donors are soliciting. Who knows? We haven't followed the money track yet. But once they trigger that relationship, the fall data and the spring data gets uploaded to the National Student Clearinghouse. The National Student Clearinghouse can be described as a national data hub for all universities that participate in the data sharing. For example, if you have a student in the transfer portal for an athlete, they can instantaneously get access to student records and transfer it. About 96% of our universities use this nationwide, and that includes private universities as well. But once Illinois State University says, man, we're looking into this program, this seems like a great opportunity, we're going to get resources. What are the resources? They have never come out and described in plain detail what resources are they getting. We don't know. Is it money? We know they're helping pay for flyers, digital ads, tabling events, giving away swag. They do put that on their website.
All to increase voter participation. Ostensibly for nonpartisan or not party affiliated.
Correct.
But it is.
But it is, because we're looking at who's their community leaders.
Right.
And at the state of Illinois State University, there's not Republicans.
It's like the League of Women Voters is not really nonpartisan. Right. Exactly.
Correct. So once they trigger that engagement, the student data gets uploaded and it's getting funneled through the National Student Clearinghouse and backdooring it to the NSLVE, which is a research arm of Tufts University. Guess who started that research department in 2016 for that research? Barack Obama's group when he was the president. So it is all connected to the Obamas, and that's what we're saying is, hey, are we going to strip now their nonprofit status? Because clearly they're showing they're not nonpartisan. Two, what about the student data that didn't give consent to be tracked and researched on? There's plenty of free information out there with voter rolls where you can pull the 18 to, mid 20s is what they're trying to capture on research. Illinois State University has their own political science department. Why? I mean, there's enough folks there. They can do the research. Why can't they do
their own voter assessment on how well they're getting engagement? And meanwhile, you've got Charlie Kirk down there with places where the tables are getting turned on him. Literally, stuff is getting broken and stolen. People are getting attacked, and universities aren't doing anything like that. So they're really not fair actors here. And by the way, Charlie Kirk, as we are recording this right now, happens to be down at ISU, I believe, maybe U of I. He's down there having an event. Okay, but you're also alleging in your federal complaint that they violated FERPA, which is it federally protects private student data from release. They violated FERPA. And let's be honest here, no campaign would be able to get access to a full student list for which they can then easily contact the students, registered or unregistered. You've got brand new people showing up. Likely a lot of those 18-year-olds never registered to vote. Here you've got an entire listing of birth date, address, student name, and you can go out there and contact them once they sign up for All in Democracy Challenge, and this gets funneled back to third-party voter processing companies. This is where the other part that's nefarious comes in. This is the part that is potentially very illegal for them to be releasing public student data. Now, if they're going to the National Student Clearinghouse, and that is universal, or it's something that the student agrees to, they would have to also then agree that I know what they're getting this data for. Like, I know it's not just research about my ACT score and how well people at my ACT score perhaps matriculate, and do they do it on time. That's maybe valuable research for purposes of whether or not our educational systems are good from K through 12 on into college, whether or not that. But for them to use that research to then give it to third-party voter processing companies to be used for voter contact is wrong. Is that what's happening?
That's correct. Yeah. So their data was given away to the Obama organization without consent. So you've got college Republicans that worked for my campaign that have conservative values. They have no idea their data was weaponized. And to the point where they are being tracked, they're being researched, their voting behavior is what they're capturing. And that's what ISU and Heartland Community College and thousands of other universities nationwide are getting actual reports back on how many of their students voted, which field of study they see a downturn. And then when they see a field of study, for example, engineering, for example, and they don't see enough students that are that are declaring engineering as their major, they will send a professor that got trained as part of the All in Democracy Challenge, and that professor will go in and do a PowerPoint presentation if that professor requests for it. And so what's happening is their data is truly landing in the laps of Democrat candidates, Democrat parties and organization, and no campaign, no political action group, no nonprofit, the way the federal law reads right now, has access to that private data. It is protected. And now the onus that we're saying is the universities, A, violated, now B, they need to enforce their legal responsibilities of what they're supposed to do with that data, because now the question arises, custody of chain. As this data is being passed down through multiple NGOs, at what point does one of the three NGOs say, you know what, I want to sell the data to another third-party vendor because I'm going to make money off of it? That's not supposed to be happening. When I go into the clerk's office, I'm signing an affidavit that I'm saying I am going to be responsible with that data. I'm not selling it off to a third-party NGO. I'm not selling it off to make money. But that's not happening here. And we caught them. And it's truly, it becomes an election integrity issue and concern that if we're not addressing for 2026, especially in Illinois, where we have these competitive races, the 76th, Liz Bishop loses because of NIU. Jay Kevon downstate, he loses to the college campuses. Mm-hmm. Desi Anderson loses to the college campuses. Mm-hmm. We could get out of the super minority.
Well, and that's how they really carved up the 13th congressional district to pull in ISU. It goes from ISU down through Champaign to the colleges areas, down into SIU, Madison County, where SIU E is. I mean, they carved it out specifically that way. It's a total freaking joke. These people are bad actors. So, Desi, look, you gave me the list. There's 44 different universities and colleges, including like Benedictine University. So even private colleges have decided that they need to be on this all-in campus democracy challenge. I think that entire program is bogus. I don't know why they feel they need to do that. Another thing that I know Darren LaHood had proposed an idea that, you cannot vote from your college campus address. You need to vote from your home address, your actual home address. I think he was going to push federal legislation on that as well. So that's an option that would kind of solve some of this.
Correct. And what really happened here in Illinois is when Governor Pat Quinn in 2014 signed the legislation where students could vote at their college campuses and same-day registration, that changed the electorate of Illinois maps. And people are going to argue and say, oh, no, we have too many lazy Republicans, da-da-da. Yep. No, they've compacted the universities. So now McLean County has these 3 universities, and the 91st district, one state rep district represents all 3 of those universities. You know, it doesn't add up. Actually, 4 universities with ICC over in Tazewell County. So, and that's an issue, is when they allowed that to happen, when Governor Pat Quinn changed that. That's why in 2020, we had to consider the college population for the first time when we redrew the maps. And I don't ever recall anyone from Springfield flagging that issue and saying, well, wait a minute, this is the first time we're actually allowing the students to claim home residency. It's going to change the electorate of our districts, Champaign County, downstate.
Well, then in reverse too, what they also argued is that if you're in prison, guess what? Your home voting district for census should be Chicago or wherever you're from. They didn't want it at the prison downstate. They didn't want to add population down there for the prisons. So they're all confused about what they do. I will say this. I remember when the bill came up with Quinn. I was in the legislature at that time. I remember all that. And I also was joking at the time. I'm like, look, you could not show, and they could set up a voting booth right outside Cam's bar, and you would not have to show ID to go ahead and vote at Cam's if you're on the voter list already. But you walk into that bar and you've got to show ID to get a beer. So, I mean, nothing makes sense in this state. Yeah.
Well, how about this? You have competing state institutions in Illinois. You've got the State Board of Elections that say, hey, for residency, you show 30 days you have to live here. The State Board of Education in Illinois, I had a couple of athletes that were out-of-state students that worked for my campaign. They did not qualify for in-state tuition because they couldn't prove 12 months of residency in Illinois, but they were able to vote for me. So you have now the issue in the Big Ten Conference with U of I. Out-of-state students don't qualify for in-state tuition, but yet are voting on local referendums because the State Board of Education says, oh, you don't qualify, you don't meet a residency standard. Well, how does the State Board of Election then rectify and say, oh, they actually do meet residency standards and we can allow them to vote? That's what makes zero sense.
Okay, I don't disagree. Well, I want to thank you so much. I know that we've interrupted your vacation down in Florida, and I appreciate you coming on because this was such an important topic that nobody has literally covered. However, you did get national press on this, and I really do appreciate that. The Federalist covered it. They probe alleged left-wing GOTV scheme at colleges. So Sean Fleetwood covered it, and I know the Washington Examiner covered it. It's gotten almost no media attention here in the state of Illinois, and it's a really important issue. I want to thank you so much. I had you and your lawyer on my radio show. That's up on a podcast now. People can go to AM 560 podcast listening and listen to that segment, which was at the end of the show, and hear more about this. But Desi, I really appreciate your fight on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Jeannie. I appreciate it.
Okay, and that'll end our Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody for joining me. Share this content if you could with others so that everybody's informed. Have a great day.